somebody becomes the content creator. So it's usually someone on marketing who said, here's our new piece of content that we have, this great customer testimonial, please share it. And then you essentially link up your social networks and you can just click share, share, share. Very easy. Because I bet you could imagine, like, well, how are we going to every one of my team to go share it and make sure they do? Yeah. We use Slack as a communication platform, so I have a channel in there that's called press. So whenever we have something new, I put it in there and I tag the channel, everybody on the thread, and I say, please share this through Twitter or Facebook by the end of the day. And here's, even better, here's a sample message you could use to promote it. You know, new case study on XYZ by @adhart. Check it out and give a link. And then if somebody feels, you know, or is willing to share it, they already have a message and they can edit it as they see fit. So leverage your team, leverage your employees, leverage your interns. You never know who somebody knows, who's going to see it. It costs nothing. The other thing, something that worked really well for me in the past is not only using our team members as a distribution channel for our content, but also as inspiration for new content. And this again can cross, you know, into the customer side, it can cross into product, marketing, sales. There was something that I did in a previous job called Thought Leader Fever. And what Thought Leader Fever was it was this way to crowdsource ideas for new content from our team. And the reason why we did that is because our company's positioning was as thought leaders. So I talked to you guys about, you know, the advanced NLP and machine learning text analysis we did. We wanted to be the smart people in the industry. So in order to do that, we had to keep creating new case studies that highlighted our analytic capabilities and some really interesting insights that we were able to get. But marketers could only come up with so many of those. But everyone in the company had been working on something else. You're analyzing social data, there's millions of things you could analyze. Like the Olympics, you could look at some ad campaign for New Balance. You could look at how people are talking about their mortgages. You could look at anything. And so we created this competition called Thought Leader Fever, where people would get in groups of 3 and just come up with a new idea for a case study. And they kind of, you know, help do some of the initial, you know, research into, you know, what would the angle be and what would some of these key takeaways be. And then they give them to marketing, and marketing would package them up and publish them on their behalf. So everyone in our company ended up becoming an author, something they could put on their LinkedIn or put on their resume, whether it was a blog post or something pitched to our PR team. Everybody got some kind of value out of it, and then there were gift cards and, you know, kind of a celebration if you had the most successful piece of content. So it doesn't work for everyone, but I think the key takeaway is your team has amazing ideas and your team has amazing reach. Figure out how to leverage those. It just so powerful. A point that I also want to reiterate is the idea that marketing cannot be a me exercise. You know, I've talked about AdHart maybe twice, but I'm talking about all these other different companies, HubSpot and, you know, previous things. Think about lifestyle brands that you know. Like, how many Red Bull ads have you seen that show you the ingredients in a Red Bull? Hello, this is Red Bull. We will give you this much more energy and buy our product for $4.99. That's not their strategy. Their strategy is, hey, I know you, audience. You guys like extreme sports and adventure. So I'm going to have a guy jump out of outer space and put my logo on it. You know, I'm going to sponsor these different games. Obviously, not everybody can be a lifestyle brand, but they're thinking like one. They're thinking about who is my audience and what are they really engaged by. So with Red Bull, it's, you know, outdoor sports, adventure, extreme sports. Patagonia, same kind of a thing, but, you know, more kind of adventure-y. And then Abercrombie Fish, you know, they got a whole bunch of problems, but they've got that coolness factor. That, you know, who wants to be cool in high school? I I guess they're trying to do college too, but probably unsuccessful. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, funny thing, they were an old client of ours, and they wanted to understand whether or not a barrier to folks buying their clothes was the logo. Like, were people embarrassed to have Abercrombie? When you're speaking in front of a crowd, like, probably not. Yeah, hello, my name is John. So it was interesting, and I think they eventually pivoted and have some shirts that don't. So the key takeaway is, you know, I would bet that almost everybody in this room probably does not have a lifestyle brand, but try and think like one. Think about your audience and what interests them. How do they perceive you? How do you want them to perceive you? And create content that speaks to their needs and their problems. Not always about what you do. Because what I've learned from being in marketing, 10 years is that people don't care. They don't care about me. They don't care about my product. They care about them. And they care about the problems they have. And if I'm the best fit for solving that, then they'll like me for a little while. But I got to keep solving additional problems. So try and get out of, almost turn the table and sit in their shoes. Just think about how you're receiving their content. So then, kind of what's been the unspoken kind of theme of my whole presentation is social. Now is the time to adopt the social first strategy, regardless of what you sell. You can be in education tech, marketing tech, you can sell clothes, chocolate, it doesn't matter. It's now the time for a social first strategy. And the reason why I say that is because your customers are telling you exactly what to do next on social media. They, again, have needs and problems and wants that are unrelated to you. But a lot of this data, in fact, billions, is all public. You just need the right tools to make sense of it. So I can share some stories around that. But there's really two ways to think about social media. And that's as a channel, as a distribution network to reach your target audience. They're all on social no matter what somebody else tells you. Sometimes I get asked the question at social media conferences that say, well, is social media really representative of the population? And I say, well, Twitter alone has a user base that's almost the size of the United States. Just think about that. And 20% of it, if I recall correctly, is 18 to 24. So it's not just older folks, not just younger folks. We're talking about the population of a state in some of these different demographic groups. So it's simply a corpus that you can't ignore. It's too much valuable information. So think about social media as just being an incredibly cost-effective way to reach your audience. And if you're using your whole team to help amplify your message, you can get quite a bit of reach for free. We don't have an enormous following ourselves, but we can target and we've converted marketers through social media because we know that they're there and we know what they're talking about too. So it's one of those things where people always ask me, do I need 10,000 followers or whatever? No, you just need a brand story and you need to figure out what type of content your audience is interested in. Share that stuff and then engage with them. It's just like our example at the trade show. They're all there. They're all talking about different hashtags. So which hashtags are relevant to you? And the other thing that you can understand with social media is group behavior. So, you could interact with somebody on a one-to-one basis, direct engagement, if you will, but you could also understand what groups of people within different audiences are talking about. Do they shop together? Do they have multiple products in their consideration set? You'd be surprised about the things that people talk about publicly. We worked with a couple pharma companies in the past, and those are some very interesting conversations that we analyzed. You'd be surprised, people talk about their health conditions and rashes, what have you. And it's just interesting to be able to think about social media as the world's largest focus group. These are people who are just like you and me, who are talking about who they think should run our country, who they think, has the best Super Bowl ads, who they think, has the cheapest gas, or what have you. There's so many different things that are being talked about, and the key with all of these conversations and behaviors is that they create data, and a lot of it. On Twitter alone, I think the last time I checked, there were 300 million posts every day. And across all the different social networks, I mean, we're talking billions. It's just an outrageous amount of content. And there's new technology there. It's something where my company's focused, and there's going to be kind of what I foresee as a new wave of technology that can help you detect new opportunities based on how people fluctuate in response to different content. So for example, in the world of the NBA, Steph Curry, all-star, right? He had shattered the three-point record and just had so many game winners that he was just dominating headlines. Well, rewind to say a game last season, hits the game-winning three. At that exact point in time, his audience likely took to social, talking about that event. And that event becomes the absolute perfect time to sell jerseys, right? It's just an automatic fluctuation in what his audience was talking about. They're now activated on the concept of the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry. They're excited about the game win. So maybe they'd be interested in a jersey. Maybe they'd be interested in tickets. Maybe they want a beer. There are so many different things that can be measured on social media that are uniquely relevant to different companies. I'm just talking about, a jersey producer, but I imagine that even on the B2B side, or if you're creating a biotech company or different types of medical instrumentation, different news events, different happenings can activate your audience on topics that could be extremely relevant to you. So let me put this to an example. We were talking about audiences, and again, there are millions of different audiences. But let's talk about, at a high level, let's say you're creating a new product, a new Fitbit-like tool. You say, how do I reach health techies? People who are using some type of maybe wearable technology, but they're concerned about their health and kind of tracking their different pulses and things. I'm not one of them. I'm getting kind of fat. Hence the big shirt. So that's not there. This is kind of where I get into the shameless plug for our company. But I really want to, rather than focus on the company, just focus on the use case for what you're trying to do. So think about how you can get at that audience. So where we're focused, our first product, Cuckoo, is the first task advisor for marketing. And what I mean by a task advisor is a software tool that uses data analytics on social data to help understand the behaviors and the types of content that different audiences are most captivated by in everyday life. And those things are likely completely unrelated to what your messages are, your traditional messages are. So if you can automate that, you can help to give a set of tactics on the most effective ways to reach people. Because reaching health techies can be very different than reaching athletes, than reaching college students. They're all interested in different things, they're talking about different things. So if you throw them, an ad or a blog post that's just unrelated, they're not going to receive it very well. So the way that Cuckoo works, our first release is based on Twitter. So it works by allowing you to specify a Twitter handle or a group of followers that you're trying to reach. So for example, this could be the following for your company. It could be the following of one of your competitors. So if you don't have one, you might want to enter in someone else's who's really good at reaching your audience. Or if you want to, the example I always love sharing is if you want to reach outdoorsy people, who's already really good at doing that? Maybe REI, maybe Bass Pro. They're creating content and stories to engage that particular segment of the market. So once you enter in that handle, what our system does is it goes out and harvests recent behavioral data from those specific people. We run our algorithms on that data, what they're saying, how they're saying it, the different types of images they're using, and we extract what's gaining the most engagement. And we basically recommend you to do more of those things. So just to put a couple examples in here, if you wanted to reach health techies with, you know, Leon's wearable, well, Leon's wearable might not have a following, so let's use Fitbit as a proxy audience, if you will. So by running somebody like Fitbit, we could help understand the topics that Fitbit's audience is talking about. Not the overall trending things on Twitter, which is less interesting. What are these folks focused on? So things like marketing. Her conference is a female empowerment conference, which I thought was quite interesting. Fitbit itself, social media, wisdom. These are different hashtags that you could append your posts with to get visibility within that audience. But similarly, each of these are clickable. Hashtags are also a place. You can see a thread of recent conversation and things that are relevant to you, you could comment on, you could retweet. Well, what happens when you comment on somebody's post? They get a notification. It just starts a dialogue. So it's, again, a way to kind of focus your marketing. This is a really cool one. What time are these people online? So sometimes these are later in the evening, and I would contend that your marketers are probably not on Twitter at 9 p.m. Thankfully, there are really cool free tools out there like Hootsuite that let you schedule content and schedule posts at any time. So if you know that your audience is really engaged at 9 p.m., you could schedule out a promotion of your recent blog or press release, whatever, at that time. And really, I mean, again, this is when they are most active. So irrespective of when it's convenient for you to post, you should be posting when you're more likely to get engagement with the people you're trying to reach. Kind of a fun little tidbit. I'm talking about the political election on Monday. We've been doing some fun analysis around Trump and Hillary. And the prime tweeting time across both of their audiences is between midnight and 1 a.m. So believe it or not, there's this new trend, what seems to be a new trend of late night political engagement or political entertainment. Now that we think, it's a late show with Trump and Hillary. So you got to think that that becomes a battleground moving forward, because that's when people are consuming content and when they're talking about their positions on Hillary and on Trump. And what are they then doing? They're kind of getting visibility and converting other folks within their following. I'm sure everybody's Facebook feed at some point when you sign in during the day, somebody's got some long-winded posts about who they think is going to win, or some political position. Well, that is it's an impression in the ad space. When different eyeballs see your ads, it's called an impression. And so over time, the more impressions that you have with the right group of people, you're going to convert them. So with things like your organic content or even your paid content, timing is so important. But then also the message, like what are you saying? What types of messages? I talked about blog posts, webinars, ebooks, all these things. This was just snapped from one day, but it changes every day. So brand photos, the idea of showing an image of your product with its nice branding, a visual, something that was driving a lot of engagement. Customer photo being the second one, so images of your customers using your product. In marketing, this is often called user-generated content. So if your customers are snapping a picture of them doing laundry with Tide and tweeting it at you, like that feels more believable, more trustworthy than a studio image of a mom and her son holding a bottle of Tide. It's a little more staged. So those different types of things can create a lot of engagement. Just a general tip: GIFs are so powerful. GIFs, I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago when GIFs started kind of picking up, that there's a saying that an image says 1,000 words or an image is worth 1,000 words. Well, a GIF repeats until you know, affirmatively leave the page or scroll down. So you talk about the impression of an image, impression, 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 impression. And I mean, these can be, GIFs that are, clever and funny. They can be segments that you've extracted from a TV show or a movie. But one thing that we do at my own company is we do GIFs that are screenshots of our software. So we actually will, there's a tool called Record It, or record.it. And it's just like a screen grab software, but for GIF creation. So we'll click into our tool and say, like, oh, here's a recommendation. And then you see the thing expand, and then it closes. And we then share that through social. So it's like a little mini product demo in the form of a GIF. So people can kind of see and experience our software, a little teaser, without having to watch a 10-minute video that nobody cares about. See a little GIF. So use GIFs. They're incredibly powerful. The last thing that's kind of another focus area is around who. So we also do network analysis. We'll model those groups of followers and figure out who is connected to whom, who's mentioning whom. And those people become great middlemen, if you will, for your message. So we looked at a kids brand recently, Costco Kids, not blanking on the name, for an ad agency recently, and they wanted to know, their PR team wanted to know, hey, like, who could we give free product to like just tweet about us, or to write a nice blog post. And our network analysis results were a bunch of mommy bloggers, which made perfect sense. Because if they're trying to reach and engage parents, that's their audience, to sell kids' suitcases and things, well, who could help connect them? Mommy bloggers. So I'm in the meeting and I see them just scribbling down these insights. I'm like, damn, should pay me for this. We're pivoting our business model. But it's so powerful when you think about who's in the center of your network. And you don't even need a tool like Cuckoo to answer that for you all the time. I mean, it can just be somebody who you know. You're like, oh yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy. Or even LinkedIn can help you connect people. But there's something to be said for finding media outlets that your audience is most engaged by. This happens to be Fortune, different types of influencers, or even some of your customers. I would contend that some of your customers are very well connected in your space. They know lots of other customers. So how can you activate them, incentivize them to help be your ambassador, to help kind of forward your message? It can be free tickets to your next event. It could be inviting them in and doing a special kind of customer offsite type event. We did that at one of my old companies. The way that we positioned it is we said, hey, you're a really important part of our business, and we want to involve you in some of our product strategy discussions. People like to feel important. So we flew them out, had a great brainstorm, all the executive team was there, our top data guys, and it just became a very collaborative event where we got great ideas from them, but also shows, like, build a little FaceTime. When you're sitting down with someone, you never know who else they know. It's like, yeah, that's kind of interesting that you guys mentioned that, because I know a guy who does that for NASCAR. Maybe we should connect. Yeah, that would be great. I'll take that contract. So those different types of connections can just amplify your marketing tremendously. What I want to close with is the idea of kind of recommendations, and what my focus area is, but what I'm really passionate about is that there is a right answer to every marketing question, but sometimes it's hard to get there. It might not be something that you or your marketing team arrives at right away. You can't be afraid to experiment. And the best experiments I've seen are the ones that are audience inspired. So you guys might be sitting, in your war room, or 4 people in a conference room, or they're writing on the walls, or whatever, trying to come up with a new idea. But ask your potential customers. The best ideas that we've come up with. The worst ideas come from me. Whenever I'm in a meeting, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if they could do this? And we'll try a campaign that just fell flat. And then the next time around, when we invited one of them in, or just had a quick phone call or a text message, it's, well, you might want to think about this one. Because you're so ingrained in what you're building that sometimes it's really hard to just turn the table and say, like, how would someone receive this? And again, I think a lot of brilliant ideas are created internally, but don't be afraid to ask others. And again, it's something as simple as a phone call, a text message, a Skype, whatever you want to do, just to get a sounding board. I know your team has been really good about, within the lab, asking people different feedback. And it goes a long way. Again, some of the most costly mistakes I've made is when I thought that I had some genius idea and I knew exactly where it was going to go and I knew exactly how to market it. Nope. Didn't ask the audience. There's a powerful concept there. So, again, my company's AdHark. We do streaming marketing recommendations. So that's it. I want to open this up to questions. Anything about marketing, social, apparel trends? Happy to share some insight. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's wonderful presentation. I think one of the problems that media users or internet users or email users face today is too many pop-up ads or unwanted emails coming to our box every day. And I remember 2 days ago, there's a news report in the Boston Globe saying that Facebook's guy find a way to counteract the ads block software installed in the desktops of their users, in the desktop devices of their users. And Facebook's guys say too many pop-up ads is truly a problem, but they think there should be a better way to solve this problem instead of the pop-up blocking software. So in your view, what's the better way? Because as a consumer or internet users or social media users, when I want to find some info about cars or about a certain brand of clothes, it doesn't mean I want to see all those ads or marketing emails all the time.
Right.
I want those info when I want them.
Right.
So what's in your view, what's the better way?
Content. And it's organic content, not paid content. Because to your point,
Organic content, what's that?
Sure. So there's kind of two sides to marketing, and that's like organic things and paid media. So paid media being ads, content that you have to pay for to show you. So that's kind of that outbound marketing concept I was talking about. Like watching a TV ad or clicking on a website and 10 different pop-ups come up. Or if you Google search, hey, I'm looking for a new Nissan, and then the next website you go to, you see a little Nissan thing. Like, well, that's not the right way, and there's a ton of waste. And actually, social networks have figured out that there's a better way to do it when you look at the context in which people are engaging. So there's more of this trend in marketing for native advertising, where if you're if you're reading down your news feed, they'll put ads that kind of look like something that would be in your news, but it's not disruptive. You can just scroll right through. So it's kind of an interesting middle ground. But the best thing to do is to create content and information that help drive people to you. So what was it you were searching for when you were looking for information?
I sometimes I'm looking at car testing.
Car testing.
YouTube, videos.
Okay.
Or some kind of traveling programs. But that doesn't mean I need a car tomorrow or next month.
Right.
But when I use the internet or whatever, the car selling advertisement keep on coming in.
Google's also
Yeah,
scanning your
that
email.
doesn't mean
just
I
so you
want
know.
that all the time.
If you're using Gmail. Yeah, so what I would recommend that what a marketer should do is it's that HubSpot model. It's inbound marketing. So they might say, we know that we sell cars. One strategy could be anybody who Google searches car, I'm going to just hit them right in the face with an ad. And to your point, a lot of people are just like, I don't know, that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm really looking for is information about how to maintain my car, for example, or different, if I'm going on a road trip, I might want to know 5 things that I should always have in my trunk, you know, in case there's some emergency. So that type of thing is perfect for a blog post or a YouTube video, a help video. So what a lot of marketers are now starting to shift to, and what they all should be doing, is zeroing in on their buyer personas and figuring out not what they could buy from you, but what are their actual problems? What are some things that they could do and create content around that if somebody Google searched it, they find your blog post or they find your video, and they can consume your video and get a meaningful experience out of that, get real useful information, because the consumer will remember. They'll remember that and they'll come back. Or if you're me, I'm telling you guys all about HubSpot because I've gotten so much value out of their content and I've paid $1. But when I'm ready, like I know exactly what they do and it's worth it to them to offer this content because I've now told, 30 people about that. So I'll give you another example. There was a guy, and they actually use this as one of their proofs of concept. There was a guy who I think had been in sales for a number of years, and his business was around selling swimming pools. And the way that he did his marketing was in a very traditional sense. He'd go to trade shows, he'd do like print ads in newspapers. Sure, he did some type of website advertising, but didn't get a whole lot of value. I think he almost went bankrupt is kind of the way the story goes. So he instead pivoted. And he's like, well, I know this market better than most people, and I know my audience. My audience are homeowners that want to have a pool, you know, in their back for their kids. So it wasn't even, I don't think, in-ground pool at the time. I think it was just something above ground. So what he would do is he created a blog attached to his website where he would talk about tips and things to maintain and clean your pool. Because anybody who had a pool or is thinking about a pool is thinking about cost. They're thinking about, well, shit, I don't know anything about the tools that I need or the chemicals, or I don't know about maintenance. What do I do in the winter? You know, how should does it need to be fenced in? You know, there are all these different regulations, all these different things. So where do you go? Well, he started creating this content, optimizing it for search, using the right keywords and things. And over time, when people in his geographic market were searching like, you know, help fixing my pool or whatever, they'd find his helpful content. And at the bottom was a nice nifty call to action like, oh, this is put on by XYZ Pool Company. And he'd get leads that way. So he wasn't interrupting you with an ad. He was creating useful information that he knew was relevant to his target audience. If he was writing about, you know, water parks, that's probably less interesting. Or if he was writing about, you know, car mechanics. But he knew that these homeowners, who could have been recent homeowners, who might have kids, would have all of these different types of problems. So creating blog, video series, things like that. So the biggest kind of question, it seems like a no-brainer now that I'm explaining it, but the biggest thing you need to take into account is time, right? It takes time to create those assets, and they need to be good. Like a crappy blog post is going to do probably more harm for you than good. So, you know, catchy title, catchy headline, but make it informative. And it's very easy to write about our own stuff because we talk about it all day long. But, you know, this is where, again, knowing your audience, getting on the phone with your customer, say like, hey, what are some problems that you guys have? You know, if you could wave a magic wand, what's one thing from your day that you'd want to totally eliminate? You might be surprised what they say. And those things can give you ideas for what type of content you create for them. That would be my long-winded answer.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Hey.
Follow in with that. how can you tell this is a paid advertisement or organic advertisement? Or more
As a
subtle one,
as a
indirect
consumer?
paid.
Paid
Yes.
content or organic content?
Well, one, it depends on the channel, but there are different types of regulations where you kind of have to disclose that. So if you're in Google search, on the far right side, that's all paid placement, and the top area is also paid placement, so it's shaded a different color. But what SEO will do for you if you're using keywords is it'll help rank you higher up in the organic area. And by the way, social is the best way to do that. So when you're sharing your content and sharing links to your content, and other people share it, what do links do? Drive up your organic results. Social. But I mean, on Facebook or on YouTube, it'll say sponsored content. You'll usually see like a little thing in the corner. I've just seen so many that I almost have like a filter where I'm just like next, next, next. So whenever I just kind of see that, I keep scrolling. But my parents don't. They're not very savvy internet folks. So they'll say, oh, that's interesting, and they'll start clicking through it. Like that's sponsored content, that's there. And sometimes it can be useful. But the funny thing is whenever you click on one of those ads, it charges the advertiser. So, they figured out, or when Google first launched its paid service, AdWords, there were some people who were really malicious. They'd say, wow, like, what if I create a bot that goes and clicks on all my competitors' ads over and over and over again, and it charges them thousands of dollars. People still try and do that, but Google got a lot smarter about it, and if you can actually prove that happened, they'll refund you. So advertisers aren't evil, most of them. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I tend to look for how-to guides, like how to ABC, how to clean your pool, how to fix a car, how to whatever. And searching for those on Google as well, and you can rank them by views as well. So you can get some more targeted content there. And don't feel like you need to invest 10 minutes in a video, watch the first few, and if they haven't gotten to your problem, next, go to the next one. And it's just kind of an interesting way to test yourself about when you're looking for information, like what pisses you off? What's something that will turn you off or send you to another website? Don't do that stuff for your own marketing, And one of the things that folks will do when they're doing video marketing is they'll say, well, we've got all of these different stories that we want to tell. There's so many different ways to use our products. Like, I can't focus on one. Well, then you have a 10-minute video that nobody's going to watch. Nobody has time for that. You'd have to be nuts to spend 10 minutes on something like that nowadays. So instead, break it down into smaller chunks, smaller use cases. How to do X with us, how to do Y. Or make it a GIF, even better. Or actually, something you could do is create a 1-minute video and then have like 20 different GIFs with different elements of it, and then you just got 20 ways to promote your video. So it's one of those things. I mean, when you're creating the content, it's your story, you're passionate about it, but you always want to come back to your audience. Like, is this something you would consume? Would you share this? One thing at our company that we have is it's an informal thing. You give each piece of content we create a flinch test. So to say, does this pass your retweet test? Is this something you would share with your audience? If the answer is no, then I would say, well, why? Well, it's too long, or it's not really as relevant. We're going to fix it. But just asking those questions, even of your team, can really give you some good insight about whether the content you created for the story is actually insightful, or if you're just kind of, feigning a sales pitch. So that would be my 2 cents there.
I have a question about reception. We all know that reception is kind of the creative reality. And so what happened, and we also talk about organic content, right? So then nowadays you have Yelp, if you buy things, you look at Yelp, Amazon's customer reviews. So if you were owning a company and you got all these negative reviews, how do you rebrain yourself and then change to this negative perception?
It's hard. Seriously. There were some retail conferences that I went to where I was sitting where you were, and people were talking about that problem. We got some crappy reviews. What do we do?
Yeah.
Should we delete them? What should we do? Well, the answer is no. But respond to them. Like, be transparent. Think about some of these companies like American Airlines and all, all the airlines and cruise companies that just have horrible reputations for bad customer service experiences. But the one thing, and we actually measured this at my old company, when you're affirmatively, engaging with someone that had a bad experience, it's going to go a long way. So I'd say, if somebody had said, hey, I just had some Mexican food at your restaurant that tasted like butt, I'd say, I'm really sorry that you felt that way, and just kind of engage them. Here's our support email, and we'd love to talk with you about this to see how we can fix it. I don't think you want to have a very public dialogue about that, but acknowledge the problem and take it offline. And you'll see this with a lot of airlines, same thing, like people say, fuck you, my flight got canceled, what do I do? And they say, sorry, John, I'm really sorry to hear about that. If you follow us, or if you DM us, direct message us your email, somebody from our customer service team will follow up with you and work it out. And they've just got kind of boilerplate messages like that. They'll get sent over and over again. But that's the thing, it creates a cascading effect when you're acknowledging your shortcomings, because you will have them, we have them. You can't, help everyone. And it's one of those things where, come back to content. So at my old company, there was a really horrible Glassdoor review that was written about us. And we have a good idea who it was. It was a former employee who was just pissed, and just wrote a nasty review. And I remember the executive team coming together and saying, like, what are we going to do about this? And they went through the whole gamut, like, are we sure it's this person? Do we want to contact Glassdoor? I mean, it's not our own blog. You can't do anything about it. And our VP of marketing at the time said, you know what? Like, maybe we should think about like what really pissed this person off and change the culture here. And he stepped up to the plate and said, like, look, like, that's going to be there, but what we can focus on is getting better press, better content that we're all going to share, and so we can drive that ranking higher. So if somebody Googles our company, they're not going to see this nasty review, they're going to see some of the other stuff that we're doing. And that's the best you can do. You don't want to go on there and engage somebody who's clearly, just out to get you. Because if you're going to write a page-long scathing review, like, you got a chip on your shoulder, and that just happened to be an employee context versus a customer context. But it's something that I think everybody's going to have to deal with. We've been fortunate so far that we haven't had any nasty press, but I'm sure it'll come. I'm sure there's going to be somebody who, maybe they run our tool and get some weird insights, and are like, well, what do I do about that? I'm like, sorry, I'm really sorry it showed you that. It's data analytics, and we're analyzing what other people say, and sometimes they say nasty things. Sorry. But, I think not ignoring the problem. So if it's something where you're commenting directly to the customer and taking it offline, I think is great. But more important than that, take it to heart and think about, like, are they really onto something? Is our product crap? Are we providing bad customer service? And just think about how you could kind of change that. And sometimes, again, it might just be a crazy, and you just do the same thing, and you just kind of write it off as, that's just, some people are weird. And, it's just the way it is. Yeah.
Just following that.
Sure.
Some of the ad owners, or himself, or he hires somebody, put down something really good comment. So as an audience, we see something really good and something really bad. How can I make adjustments? Which one is the real one?
I'm not sure I follow.
So you can have your friends just write all these good reviews,
right?
And then you can also have someone write bad reviews on your competitor's product.
Right.
How do you differentiate the real ones versus the authentic comments versus fake ones?
That's right.
Right. So there isn't really a good way. But one of the things that we've seen when people are kind of writing reviews reviews and doing different things is if it's from the company, they'll sign it. You know, they'll say like dash Janet or dash John. You know, or you know, if you're on something like Quora, it's a question Q&A forum. You know, there are people who ask questions about like, oh, is this product really that bad, or should we say this? Somebody from their sales team might say, hey, I actually work here. You know, full disclosure, I work for this company, but you know, this is kind of what we're about, and you know, happy to talk with you about it more. So I think the average consumer is getting smarter about understanding like what's really a you know, somebody who's just kind of writing a jerk review versus someone who's actually had a meaningful positive experience with someone versus an actual a very negative experience. And I think again, the best thing that we can do is be professional, because your first flinch test might be like, oh, screw that guy, I'm gonna rip him, you know, but don't, because same thing with the internet, it lives forever. So you want to always be, I think, above board. And when I read reviews and I see somebody kind of, you know, from the company actually saying something meaningful and genuine, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel that, you know, you guys actually care about your customers. And you can't impress everyone. You won't impress everyone. But when you screw up, do something about it. And the guy who, the presentation I actually listened to was someone who used to run customer service for Citibank. Again, knows way more about that world than I possibly can. But he used this really interesting example in his everyday life. His whole thing, kind of similar to what I was talking about with sharing on social, it said, you know, there's network effects because people tell other people what they hear. He said, let me tell you a story. He said, I moved into my new house with my wife, and you know, our router broke. And he's like, I'm, you know, a lazy guy. I want my TV. I want to be able to stream TV and just kind of have my whole setup. He's like, I don't really care about all the other stuff. I want to get my man cave set up. He's telling this story. And so what does he do? He goes on Amazon Prime and, you know, orders a router next day. A day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by, still no router. And he calls him up and says, hey, where the hell's my router? Like, what's going on? I paid extra to get this. And they say, sorry, Frank, we'll send another one. You know, no charge. Send another one, and you know, 2 days later, both of them arrived. So whatever happened, you know, one of them got lost and it showed up. He called him back, and he said, hey, you know, or maybe it was might have been via email, but it said, hey, you know, I'm an honest guy. The first one came. Where should I send this second one to? And he said, you know what? We were late. You keep it. We're sorry about that. And he told that story to an audience of probably 1,000 people, and I was one of the people in the audience. Now I'm telling you, where it just makes you feel good, you know, and you're mad at the time, but they did right by him. They said, yeah, you know what, we screwed up, our bad. And then, you know, it tells everyone. So not everyone, I mean, Amazon's, you know, well known and respected for their customer service. Not everybody can be Amazon, but there's something that can be said for, you know, treating, and that was maybe a $10 router, you know, but that $10 and that customer can be worth thousands or millions, and they probably didn't know that Frank was an influential guy who speaks at conferences. They probably had no idea. Well, maybe they did, I don't know. But, oh wait, that guy, yeah, send him a TV too. So, you know, it's the best you can do for that.
For time, Professor, so we can only take one more questions.
Okay.
How do you measure the performance or the efficiency of your analytical input?
On ours?
Yeah.
So the way that we're actually analyzing things, it's all empirical. So we're looking at what people are clicking on most often. So it's all based on engagement. And each of the analytics that we have has a 5% margin of error. So what we're trying to shoot for is, hey, here's our recommendation, and 19 times out of 20, it's going to be right. So, you know, it's, again, we're not even, for most of those recommendations you're seeing, there's not even a predictive element. It's just like, we know that this group of people is using that hashtag more than these other ones, so you should use this.
Do you guys do post-campaign analysis of how effective the recommendation goes? Or
So yeah, right now we're only focused on the account level. So we're gonna tell you like, hey, here's what we're seeing from your audience. Here's some tips. But there are other tools that you can use to like analyze your campaigns, because we don't really know. Like if I recommend, hey, you should share a blog post like about that female empowerment conference. Do we know if they did it? No. Should they? Yeah, because that's what their audience is most engaged by. So to your point though, I mean, one of the things that we're kind of looking to as a company is to close the loop. So on social, that's a little easier, because we could actually say like, did their engagement go up if they used our recommendation? So we could measure that. But the power of the tool is that when you're focusing on an audience, groups of people, like they don't just interact on Twitter and do things on Twitter. Like you can use the recommendations for other areas of your marketing, like an email campaign, for example. And until we kind of hook our system into those other channels, it's hard to bring it back. But we're hoping to get acquired before that.
So there's a type of behavior
Yeah.
element in doing the analysis, right?
Oh, it's all behavior. Yeah. So it's like, what are they commenting on? What are they sharing, replying to, retweeting, liking?
And that kind of build in like a pattern of a category of pattern.
Right. Exactly. And if there's like a meaningful fluctuation in that, then we say, hey, this is something you might want to think about. And are all of those things relevant? No. Like you saw some of the hashtags in there that aren't, but it's like, but they're still being used by these people, So you want to know what those are. And, for us, we always want to try and relate our brand to as many of those things as possible. So let's say, I'm looking at, we sell to marketers. So we're pretty good at marketing. And so we say, okay, like what are marketers talking about on Twitter today? We might see something like hashtag content marketing. I could say, well, I could go in there and retweet posts and engage with people. Or I could create a post that's about like, hey, here's 5 different ways that Cuckoo can help your next piece of content. Hashtag content marketing. Then I suddenly get visibility within that audience that I wouldn't have had before, because I know that they're currently active on that topic. So there's still a human element that's required. Like Cuckoo's focus is on showing you opportunities, but you have to actually do something. I think it would be pretty cool when Cuckoo can do your marketing for you, but I think that's a long ways away. So our focus is just on, again, servicing the insight. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Great questions. I'll hang around for a little bit, do some other things. But thank you.
Maybe you can a little update my information. How
Obviously,
much
take a
the
picture
Google
with
will
our,
take
with
if you, how
the
much
mouse
they will
feature.
take on the top of the list, the bar or whatever.
What do you mean?
When you search something,
Uh-huh.
when you pop up, the first few advertisers are the paid advertisement.
Right.
You say, about how much they are charging now?
Well, it depends on the keyword. So they have a bidding system that's really advanced. So like depending on how much traffic there is to those keywords and how many other people want to advertise, they'll charge you more. So let's say you and I both sell chocolate bars. And we say, well, we both want to market to people who are looking for chocolate, right? So if you bid $1, I bid $2, you might bid $2, $3, $4, $5, and it becomes more valuable. So right now, some of the most expensive keywords, which can be thousands of, or maybe like hundreds of dollars for one click, would be like mesothelioma or something. Is who's bidding for that? Lawyers, right? So a mesothelioma case, they could win millions of dollars. So if somebody's saying, I'm suffering from mesothelioma, and they're searching for that, they want their law firm to pop up so that that person might say, oh, I'm going to call XYZ Associates. Right? Yeah, so they're really smart. And Twitter and Facebook are doing the same thing. So if there's a high amount of competition on traffic around different search terms, they're going to charge you more. So it can be as low as a few cents, as high as hundreds of dollars. But if you go into AdWords, it's like a keyword search tool. You just have to sign up, but it's free. You could enter in keywords that you're looking for, and it'll show you the competition level and a suggested bid. So the suggested bid is always going to be a little higher because they want you to spend more money, but it can give you an idea about like how many times has somebody searched this term over the last month. So it'll show you search volume, a relative level of competition, and then their bid price. So something for us, for example, like social media analytics is what we want to do, but there's thousands of companies that do something like that, so like advertising, that's ridiculous. But when you do the research, then you can see the story might not.
Thank you very much. I'm outdated. Thank you for bringing me up to date.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to help.
Good. So this will be on. Where can I see again?
The presentation?
Yes. Wonderful.
Thank you. Well, Liam has the presentation, but if you want to like learn about our product, you can always go to our website. That's just Mark.
But how come it's Chinese?
Oh,
That's what he's doing.
no, that's his computer. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't speak Chinese.
Yeah, I was wondering.
But yeah, I mean, there's, if you want to learn a lot more about kind of modern marketing trends, I gotta tell you, go to HubSpot's blog. Yeah, I'll recommend them every time because they kick butt creating really helpful stuff. Way better than me. So
Thank you again. Thank you very much again.
You bet.
You people from the same company?
No, I actually just came because I have a friend.
I
actually wanted to give you
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll give you a card.
I'm retired, but I'm just urge to learn something new to keep myself exciting. Yeah, very nice to meet you. Yeah. Good. Yeah. How do you know about how do you contact this talk?
Here? Well, I know Leon, his startup works in the same lab as mine. So he knew that we were doing marketing technology, and he thought that his audience here was interested in marketing tech.
Where's your lab?
It's on BU's campus, actually. Yeah, so we're not around here. You can't afford it around here. We're over on Bay State Road. So if you know like ComAv, we're on BU campus, it's just parallel to that. So yeah, it's still awesome. Hi there, thank you. Yes. So right now, it's not going to be free forever. Probably the next couple of weeks, so we're going to bring it down and put a big price tag on it. But now you can poke around, and the way that it works is you have to enter a Twitter handle. So if you don't have a popular handle yourself or your company, think about another company that reaches.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you can. Yeah, but
Borrow their insights. Yeah. So it works. So I guess what you're trying to do, like, we have your potential. Well, so you